I gotta say, I was really pleasantly surprised by how much I like this show. Going in, I had heard that the Orville was pretty good. I did not think I would like it as much as I did. The first episode, I felt like, okay, it's trying for the Star Trek feel, but with McFarlane's comedic style. Okay, I can kind of see why people like this. It's okay. Second episode, I liked a lot more. It toned down the comedy a little bit. It took a little bit more serious, but it also sort of really helped develop the characters, and I think that that's what was missing from the first episode. And then the third episode, without going into detail or and trying to avoid spoilers for it, that's the episode that made me realize this is fucking Star Trek. McFarlane, I have heard, originally pitched the Orville, or the show that would become the Orville, as a Star Trek series. And obviously it wasn't picked up. Star Trek Discovery was picked up. I'll get to that in a minute. And so he just made his own show. And not only the amount of talent from Star Trek that's in this is amazing, the staff, the writers, the directors that were part of Star Trek make it really show that he's putting in effort to make this feel like Star Trek, and especially in the third episode, it fucking paid off. About halfway into the third episode, I completely forgot this was its own unique show. I thought I was watching an episode of Star Trek. It really feels like what the Next Generation, the original series, were. A little bit of campiness, a little bit of goof sometimes, serious when it needs to be, has its quiet moments when it needs to be, just really lets it drill in what it's doing. It's not ham-fisted with its message. It does it in a good way, and it just was amazing to see that episode and to be brought back to the Star Trek of old. And then I watched Star Trek Discovery premiere. Could you not, please? Star Trek Discovery is not Star Trek. It might be along the vein of the new Star Trek movies by Abrams, but it's not fucking Star Trek. The Orville is Star Trek. I don't know what Discovery is, other than, to be quite frank, a piece of shit. Everything that the Orville did right, Discovery did wrong. And it amazes me that the Orville has as much hate among the critics as it does, while Discovery has as much love as it does. It's basically, you have to like one but hate the other, and the media and the critics seem to have chosen Discovery, and they despise the Orville. Whereas the viewer vote is pretty much the polar opposite. I've heard that the episodes that are on CBS All Access, or whatever their paid subscription thing is, are better than the one that was on TV, and I would have to hope so, but from a base level, I could not watch. After the first episode of Discovery, unless they changed cameramen, I can't go back in and watch. I actually got sick watching that show. The random art house angles for the sake of it, the lens flare upon lens flare upon lens flare. I couldn't watch it. I couldn't stand just trying to focus, because if I did, I got nauseous. I've never seen Star Trek done like that, and whoever decided to do that, why? Tell me why. The lens flare I get, that was Abrams' thing, but the art house angles? Why? What purpose does... And the fucking close-ups? Just everywhere. The dramatic close-ups for no bloody reason. Whereas the Orville, it's pretty simple. It's pretty straightforward in how it's doing its thing. It's very classic Star Trek, and it works to the show's advantage. I've said this to my friends. I think that the biggest compliment I can give to the Orville is that if the Roddenberry estate sued the Orville for infringement upon the Star Trek license for it being too similar, if I was that judge that was arbitrating, I think that's the word, over the case, or hearing over the case, I would award it to the Roddenberry family, because this is Star Trek. He did it so perfectly. It's got comedic touch. It's more modern, realistic, as opposed to visionary utopian, which I think does separate it enough so that he wouldn't get in trouble. But at its core, you can tell this is Star Trek, unlike the other thing. I mean, hell, you can even make almost one-to-one comparisons between characters so far. McFarlane himself is probably Kirk. The chief of security girl is obviously Worf. The doctor is something of a Troy mixed with Bones. The number 2 dude is obviously Vulcan. That's what they were going for. Sort of a Vulcan mentality, but in a more Klingon-like body. The robot is obviously Data. You get the picture. It's amazing how easy it is to just draw parallels between this and the other Star Trek series. It shows that it was done with love and care, and that McFarlane gives a damn about this. And I think ultimately that's what separates Orville from Discovery, is that you can tell Orville was done with love, and it was done in a way that tried to honor the originals while still being its own thing, whereas Discovery doesn't give a shit about anything else. It's Star Trek in name, pretty much alone. It does what it wants. Continuity be damned. It feels like it exists just to make money and to use the name, hoping that that will draw in people. And I know that's probably the cynic in me talking, but it just really feels like this is a grimdark paint by numbers thing, and they just threw Star Trek on because Star Trek had the name. If you get nothing else from this, give the Orville a chance. Go into... obviously watch them in order. You can watch them whatever, but I would still recommend watching them in order, and go to the 3rd episode. If you aren't convinced by the 3rd episode, then at least you gave it a chance, and if that one doesn't do it for you, there probably won't be another one that will. But that was the point That was the really big turning point for me, and this series is probably my favorite that's on the air right now because of just how wonderful it is and how authentic it is to not the source material but the source material. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. I'm really looking forward to seeing this every Thursday, and I hope that this gets renewed not only for a second season but for many more, because it feels like McFarlane can do a lot of justice by this. And I want to see where he goes and what he can come up with. I have been wanting a new Star Trek series since Voyager was canceled. I don't count Enterprise. I really don't. So this just feels amazing. And I'm just so happy that it exists. This has been Math Machine, just honestly gushing about a really good show that I feel needs to be seen by even more people than it already is. Peace out.